Hi, and welcome, Slooh members, to the latest Clubhouse clip. I'm Eric Edelman, broadcasting to you live from Smoky Hollow Studios in Slooh HQ in Washington Depot, Connecticut. But where we're coming from is a land that looks like it may be sunny right now from the all-sky view, but it's going to be actually, we're going to be looking a little closer into the sky at some stuff that's going to be really pretty beautiful, despite this really very full moon that might be a little bit of an annoyance here tonight. And we're, of course, going to have our wonderful guide who's going to be bringing us through some really incredible objects. We're looking at some seasonal nebula here tonight on Slooh. And then we're going to be looking at those with Slooh astronomer Will Gator. Thank you, Will, so much for joining me here tonight. I know it's the middle of the night over by you in the UK, but I'm so happy you could stay up. We'll have a slumber party here on Slooh. We'll have a good time looking at all these objects here.
Yeah, it's a nice distraction from the general election, which is currently ongoing here in the UK. So yeah.
Oh no, politics. Yeah. In the night sky and the universe, we just have everything and every candidate. So whoever you're for,
Exactly.
we're here for you on Slooh. and, and yeah, since we have such a really an annoying moon right now, Will was kind enough to really give us a little bit more of a guide in terms of we'd love to sort of lead ourselves into our where we're looking at in the night sky. And right now, it's so tough because the moon's being a bit of a diva. But Will gave us a really interesting. If you didn't know, he does some astrophotography here and there, and this is a really beautiful image that he's taken of where we're going to be looking in the night sky. Could you tell us a little bit about this like amazing image here, Will?
Yeah. So this is a basically a small section of that sky you just had in the all sky image, and you can see this is basically one of the densest regions of star fields around the constellations of Sagittarius and Serpens. And so what you're seeing here is actually these what almost looks like this sort of milky fluffiness. That's actually the combined light of the stars in the Milky Way, creating this beautiful texture. And all across it, you have these black sort of filamentary sort of shadows almost, and these are dust clouds obscuring the light from those stars. But if you look really closely, you can see that scattered amongst all these rich star fields, there are these beautiful objects. Some of them are clusters of stars, what we call open clusters. Others are sort of really dense conglomerations, like the one at the center, that's the Sagittarius star cloud. And it's a really extraordinary, bright sort of region of the Milky Way if you're looking with a naked eye. And it's just a mass of literally thousands of stars. But of course, what we're talking about this evening is those little red, ruby red smudges of light, and those are the nebulae. And you've got quite a few in this image. At the bottom, you've got the beautiful Lagoon Nebula, which is Messier 8. And just above it, you might be able to see a very small little round patch with a little hint of blue above it. That's the Trifid Nebula, Messier 20. But the ones we're talking about this evening are those two up in the top left, and that's Messier 17 and Messier 16, better known by the more common names The bottom one is the Swan Nebula, and the one above it, the beautiful, famous Eagle Nebula. So that's what we're going to be looking at this evening with the telescopes.
And I believe that we're getting an Eagle Nebula image coming in just about now. And so the cool thing about tonight is with Nebula, the color is so important to these images. And
Mm,
what we get first is we get the black and white. Here it is coming in live, the black and white image, and we're going to see it fill with color as
that's
the
lovely.
image processing goes through. And so you see this raw live experience of seeing how the Slooh telescopes work. Particularly, it's going to be so cool. I mean, there's really a lot to talk about with color, but even black and white, we can sort of see some shapes taking place, can't we?
Yeah, I mean, there you have it. If you've ever seen that famous, that iconic picture from the Hubble Space Telescope, the pillars of creation, these vast, towering clouds of dust and gas, there they are at the center of that image. You see those sort of finger-like protrusions. Astronomers call them elephant trunks, but these are actually places where stars are being born. So we think that in those towers of gas and dust, which incidentally are around about the one on the left, that's about 4 light years high, and the central one that you can see, that sort of darker one that looks like a sort of finger, that's about 2 light years high, roughly. And inside here, the Hubble Space Telescope has seen signs of tiny,
Ooh,
tiny little embryonic stars. And look at that color picture. Isn't that gorgeous?
look at that
I
just
mean, this
coming.
is what's,
Oh, it's so cool. Oh
isn't
man.
it beautiful? And that classic red color, we should talk about that. That red color that we see in nebulae. What's causing it? Well, what's happening is that, well, the clue is that sort of cluster of stars just up to the right of it. That's a cluster called NGC 6611. Not a very exciting name, but it's what causes the nebula to glow. Because what's happening is the young stars that have formed out of the gas and dust in this nebula, they emit immense amounts of radiation, particularly ultraviolet radiation. And what happens is, as that radiation excites the gas from the maternal nebula, that gas begins to glow, and it glows this very characteristic red color. And we see that through all these star forming regions. We see this beautiful glow of hydrogen, and it's hydrogen gas that's causing that red color.
Wow. And you were talking earlier that this is a sort of place where stars can form, a birthplace, really. And
Mm.
so, uh, where do these nebula come from, though, and that they can become these star-forming regions? Like, what are these objects that we're looking at?
So what we're looking, if you remember back to that wide image that we showed earlier, what we're actually doing is we're looking through the disk of the galaxy. We're looking back, in fact, quite towards the central region of the Milky Way. You see, you can just get a hint of it, but there's actually a large region at the center of our galaxy, which is the sort of central bulge, and then around it you have the disk, and the disk is composed of the spiral arms of our galaxy, and the spiral arms are the sites of star formation, because embedded within these swirling arcs of stars are these very dense, cool clouds of gas and dust. And it's from within those clouds that the stars begin to form. So the actual processes of star formation are still quite mysterious. There's much that we don't really understand about how stars form, what's the triggering process that causes star formation. But what we think happens very broadly is that some external influence, perhaps another star or maybe just an instability, causes these gas and dust clouds to collapse. And as they collapse, they begin to heat up. And at the center, if the pressures and temperatures are right, a star, a baby star, begins to form. And that's what's happened in this particular region. You can see that little cluster of stars. These stars have formed within these dense pockets of gas. And over time, what will happen is that cluster will spread out, it will disperse. So our sun was probably born in a cluster much like the one that you see on screen right now, except over time, over billions of years, it's dispersed, and now we sort of wander the Milky Way, sort of to a certain extent on our own.
And so it really brings to home the name Pillars of Creation. This is a place where this is a star factory. Things are being created. places like
Absolutely.
solar systems where we live. And it's absolutely, it's gorgeous to see, and there's so much we can learn from it. Like, is this a
Mm.
place that you were mentioning that we don't necessarily know everything there is to know about star formation? Is this a great place to learn about it? This sort of these pillars of
Oh,
creation?
very much so, very much so. Yeah, astronomers call them the stellar nurseries, which I think is a lovely way of thinking about it. And yeah, there is so much. In particular, if we go back even just to the 1990s when Hubble first started looking at these particular gas and dust clouds, the discovery of those regions, those tiny little sort of embryonic sort of protostars, not even really stars in the shining way that we think of a star. That really was a big moment in astronomy. He started to use this extraordinarily powerful space telescope to look into the heart of these nebulae. And of course, now Hubble has a slightly better infrared capability. It's been able to probe further, but we've got more infrared telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope coming online, and no doubt with those infrared capabilities, we're going to be able to probe deeper and deeper into these nebulae. So it's a very exciting time to be interested in these nebulae. And what's lovely is that as we're coming up to summer, and as that moon moves out of the way over the next weeks and maybe the next couple of months, these nebulae you can see yourself. So if you go out into your back garden, if you have dark skies, you need from the UK, you need a clear southern horizon. You can see these nebulae yourself. So actually, the Lagoon Nebula that we showed earlier, that's very easily visible to the naked eye from a dark sky site, and even the Swan Nebula too. The Eagle Nebula, the nebulosity is much more difficult to see, but you can see the cluster quite easily with the naked eye. There's a sort of fuzzy patch.
And so this is an interesting thing that's just happening on our screen right here now. By the way, is we've just transitioned from M16, the Pillars of Creation, the Eagle Nebula, to what we have reserved right now is M17, this one nebula. And so it'll be interesting to see what just happens here. One of the things that is a concern here is that we're looking at objects that are right now very close to the moon. And just to
Mm,
reiterate how big of a bully the moon is right now, just look at that giant sphere at the bottom of your screen there. So
yeah,
I'm wondering if maybe that might be causing an issue for this upcoming image, but we'll see as this image, like again, this will be the same sort of thing that we just saw, where we're going to see something come
quite
in live to color. So
yeah,
we'll see
quite
exactly what
possibly.
happens here.
This is we're really pushing the limits of the telescope here because uh, have you got that wide image? Could you bring up that wide image because we can actually show just how close the moon is to that. So you see that little fuzzy sort of bright patch of the slightly denser stars. That's where the moon is right now, and the
Mm.
Swan Nebula you can see is right above it. So really challenging observations this, but that's what's great fun about it. But as I said, in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, go outside, and if you've got a pair of binoculars, have a look at this region because you can just wander through it, and it's absolutely exquisite. It is one of my favorite regions of the night sky. It might even be my favorite. Astronomers, we talk about, or certainly here in the UK in the mid latitudes, we talk about the summer months. We don't get much true astronomical darkness, but it's made up for that by the fact that we have this beautiful central region of the Milky Way to admire, something that I'm sure people, if you're tuning in from the southern hemisphere and you have all that beautiful region, you have this sort of thing all the time. But we have to wait until the summer here in the UK to get this sort of view.
Right. You bring up a really good point. Is that the title of the show here being seasonal nebula. This is the time when we're seeing these amazing objects come into season, and it's why we have this show so late in the night. Actually, we usually have these clubhouse clips, so, a couple hours earlier. But this is when these objects are rising in the sky because they're coming into season. They're coming into universal vogue, so to speak, right now. And so this is us sort of introducing you to a new season of objects, and sort of as we're going through this, and as we're seeing what maybe evolves with this interesting image that's coming in with the Swan Nebula. Do you have any maybe suggestions as what to look for that's new and exciting now that the summer months are coming in the northern
Yeah, well,
hemisphere?
we've got so much to pick from just in this region that we've got on screen at the moment. I would say definitely if you're just getting into astronomy and maybe you want to look at your first nebulae in the summer months, look at the Lagoon Nebula, which is that nebula right at the bottom. It's very bright, As I said earlier, you can see it very clearly with the naked eye from a dark sky sight. But turn a pair of binoculars to it, and not, not an expensive, fancy pair of binoculars, just a good standard pair of binoculars, and you can see this misty light of the nebula, and that's that glow that's caused by the excited gas that's caused by the cluster at the center of that. And then what I'd recommend is just wander your way up the Milky Way, and you'd be amazed at the things that you come across. You can see actually either side of that sort of dark band that runs up the middle, there's two lovely open clusters. Those are beautiful targets as well. And eventually you'll come across the misty patches that are up on the top left, and those are the nebulae. So, these regions absolutely just rich with objects. And if you have a pair of binoculars here, a small telescope, just wander your way through them, get a star chart, and you'll just have the most wonderful night of looking at these objects. It's absolutely wonderful.
Oh yeah, I mean, my first night sky when I first started learning about the universe was the summer sky and learning about the summer triangle and sort of navigating from those fundamental constellations. And there's just a treasure trove to really get into
Mm,
with that. It's really great. And so yeah, to
yeah.
Slooh members, if you have access to the telescope, there's so many things to look at there as well. Do you have maybe suggestions for those people that might want to explore this area with, like, say, the half-meter telescope that we have?
Yeah, well, as we saw from that early image earlier on with the Eagle Nebula, that beautiful, beautiful field of view with the half-meter telescope, showing the pillars of creation. So, what I love about that is you got a chance to follow in the footsteps of Hubble. When you look at the Hubble images, you see those pillars of creation, and then there in those images that can be taken by Slooh members are the pillars of creation, and you can make your own color image. It's Yeah, I just think that's amazing, and so definitely the Eagle Nebula would be a choice. But there are so many nebulae to look at in this region. The Trifid Nebula as well, especially from Chile, where it's much higher in the sky than from the Canary Islands. That is a beautiful object, and that's the one that's just above the Lagoon Nebula. So you can just about make it out in this wide image. There's a little open cluster of stars next to it. That's Messier 21. But the Trifid Nebula is beautiful. It looks like a Trifid. I'm not sure what a Trifid is actually. It's not like a Star Trek thing. I don't think that's what it is. Is it a flower or something? Maybe someone in the clubhouse will know what a Trifid is. Um, but yeah, it's to me it looks like almost like a rose. It's a beautiful sort of glowing sort of mass. But yeah, that would look beautiful in the half-meter telescope as well.
By the way, Trifid is Latin for split into three parts or threefold, and may
Ah,
refer
so
to the
that makes
Trifid Nebula.
right. That makes
So,
sense because there are actually some dark dust lanes that go right across it, and so yeah, that makes sense. They split the
and,
nebula in three, I guess.
and yeah, there's so much to look at. And if you're in particular a Slooh Clubhouse member, something that you're really passionate about, you want to see some more of, we can always potentially do a Clubhouse clip around it. We want to talk about things that are interesting to you. Like here, I'm just bringing up the Clubhouse real quick. Like, see, we have our observation with the Eagle Nebula going on. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look into, and particularly if you go to our show's channel, there's tons of Clubhouse clips that we've done over the past few months that we have there available for you. At the bottom of the page there's a slider that has different show channels. It has asteroid array, different asteroid shows. It has magic moments, ones that we thought were really, really special, shooting stars, a bunch of meteor shower shows, and of course Clubhouse clips. We have tons of Clubhouse clips. So if you're new to Slooh, if you'd like to see more of these shows, more of the show backlogs, just check out some of those channels. We have a lot there to offer, and a lot more coming up through the weeks. We have Clubhouse clips all the time, and there's always something new that's really going on in the night sky. That's a lot of fun, or new on the ground. We actually have this really cool project that's happening with Slooh Observatory engineer and community manager Paul Cox. I don't know if how many of you heard of this, but we've been partnering with Vodafone One in this Reach the Moon project, which is really cool. And then if you're not a citizen astronomer, if you're a community member who doesn't have access to the telescopes, this is one way you can do it. This is maybe you can check out this project, because pretty much every day for a lot of the day, there's going to be different observatory partners from around the world associated with Slooh that are allowing you to look at different parts of the moon. And so you can look at this as well. There's a really cool video that I'm going to show you sort of at the end of this broadcast that we're sort of coming up to at this point. But before we do that, I just was wondering, Will, do you have any sort of last thoughts about Nebula? We did take a nice cruise, I think, through the summer sky. And thank you for all those tips. I think I'm going to take some of them myself. I'm now in Washington, Connecticut. It's such a beautiful dark sky here. There's really no lights to be
Mm.
found. And so I think I'll go out and stargaze for a bit.
Yeah,
But
do
yeah,
because the thing I like about nebulae is, especially when you're looking at something like the Lagoon Nebula or even the Orion Nebula in the winter skies, is you're looking kind of like back in time, aren't you? You're looking at where we came from, where the sun came from, or that's what billions of years ago our solar system, would have been embedded in a nebula like that. So yeah, it's a lovely thing to look at on a summer night and just think, over there, billions of years hence, who knows? There'll be someone looking back at us.
time to get perfect time to get a little existential here.
Exactly.
Well, where have we come from? Where will we go? And
Yeah.
how beautiful is this universe that we all exist within? Absolutely, a lot of I think that gets really to the heart of Slooh and what we like to marvel at here as a community, um, sitting around a campfire and looking up and gazing, imagining, learning, and appreciating the universe for all that we can
Mm.
conceive of it and all that it is. So thank
Yeah,
you so much, Will, for joining me with this very magical
that's
segment.
a
I thought
pleasure.
it was. And it's been so
Pleasure.
much fun. And thank you to you, Clubhouse members who have watched our shows. And if you have any suggestions for future shows that you'd like to see, let us know in the live show section, where we'd love to hear your comments and we'd love to hear what you'd like to look at. And yeah, thank you again. I'm going to leave you here with our little video of the Vodafone Slooh collaboration project. But for now, this has been Eric and Will for Slooh. We hope to see you around again.
In 2015, Vodafone launched One in Spain, a cutting-edge technology that combines fiber, mobile and TV in one product. But how to communicate One's unlimited power, with the greatest feat accomplished by mankind thanks to technology, and one of its heroes?
My name is Alan Bean. I piloted the Apollo 12 lunar module. I walked on the moon.
Since 1969, only 12 men have made it to the moon. Until now. Because thanks to One, thousands of people could do so. Everybody could see the moon live and close up, as only Alan Bean and few others have. From any device, from anywhere. We have all seen the moon, but we've never seen it like this. To bring you the moon, a big idea, so simple, but difficult to pull off, especially if you want to do it 24/7, in high definition and without interruptions. In order to do it, we had to connect with 4 cutting-edge telescopes in the most important observatories around the world, broadcasting live from different time zones. But that's not all. From the internet, users could control the telescope remotely and decide what specific lunar destination they want to visit. This is what the future was about. Being able to maneuver a telescope more than 17,000 kilometers from your home without getting off the couch. In just the first week of the campaign, thousands of people left their mark at the place on the moon where they visited, shared their experience with their friends, and most importantly, explored the moon without needing to be astronauts. But above all, we've inspired them to go as far as they choose, thanks to their potential and the power of technology.
Landing on the moon. Isn't it wondrous? Enjoy the journey. Meanwhile, start thinking, what's next? What will you be able to do now?